Hello again, this is Preheat. Welcome back to another World of Warcraft video. So today we're going to be reviewing footage of my normal raid in the 11.1 PTR, playing as Frostfire Mage. And I did this raid as Frostfire to kind of get a feel for the changes. There's been a lot of changes to Frostfire Fire, and we're kind of anticipating that some of this stuff might have gutted the spec. However, I am happy to report that Frostfire is still absolutely playable. In fact, it's pretty enjoyable. I've played Sunfury as well, gotten kind of the vibe on both of them. And I'll say that overall, like, both the specs actually feel pretty good. Probably the best of the Mage specs. So if you're looking to play Mage in 11.1, unless something changes, which, you know, it's very likely that it would change, but unless something changes right now, I'm anticipating that Fire is probably going to be the most fun spec to play. Numerically, it may also be the strongest. So what has changed for Frostfire Fire? Well, for starters, the excess buffs are changed. So excess Fire, excess Frost, both those buffs are different now, and how we get them is different. However, we do still get them from our empowered Frostfire procs, which is really important to note because this means that we'll actually get a lot of generation on these buffs. It actually feels a little bit more aggressive than live because you also now get them with Meteor. This results in a kind of an overflow procs because they've also lessened the amount of Fire Blasts and Phoenix Flames that you get. So, you know, because we get less Phoenix Flames, because we get less Fire Blasts, we're getting less opportunities to spin those procs, which means that we're more likely to overcap, unfortunately. But it also means that we get a lot of them back through the excess buffs. So it's actually not as bad as you might think, although it is definitely something of an adjustment. It's a little weird to get used to having all of these procs. And you will overcap on excess fire. There's no getting around it. Excess frost has been increased to a 2 stack. So like you can actually carry 2 excess frost now, which is really good, really important. I think they should definitely extend this 2 stack to excess fire as well. It feels really, really awkward to just get a firefall proc or to want to use a meteor, but you just can't because you have an excess fire buff already. So, you know, if you were to do that, you would overcap. So yeah, overall, the playstyle, as you can see from the footage here, it seems pretty similar. Like you're still extremely mobile. You know, Blizzard stated that they wanted to reduce the mobility of Fire Mage and basically give them more cast time, right? Having to spend more casts. You do cast a couple spells every once in a while. I mean, you press like, you know, Sun King's Blessing with the hard cast Power Blast. You have to do a couple Frostfire Bolts here and there. But overall, I mean, it's kind of the same as live. Like, I don't know if they really achieved their goal. If their goal was to remove the amount of casts that you're doing, I'm not sure if they actually achieved that because there's just so many instant casts that you still do. Yeah, overall, like less hot streak generation ever so slightly, but keep in mind that what you're watching here, this is scaled to 615, so this is actually less gear than we have on live. So whenever we actually reach the patch, whenever 11.1 comes out, we're obviously going to have more stats, more iron level, so the amount of Fire Blast procs and stuff that you get, it's going to be higher because you have more haste, right? The haste gives you cooldown reduction on that. But yeah, the overall gameplay itself has stayed kind of the same. I'm going to have to make an updated guide for it. But essentially, it's the same idea. Just generate as many hot streaks as possible. Try not to munch your procs, and then use your cooldowns on cooldown. The try not to munch your procs, though, gets a little complicated. So the excess frost buff stacks twice. Meteor gives you excess fire. Excess fire gives you excess frost. And using empowered Frostfire Bolt gives you both excess fire and excess frost. I know that's a lot to digest, but just think of it like this, right? Basically, if you have a situation where you currently have excess fire, you currently have 2 stacks of excess frost, you have Meteor on available, and you have an empowered Frostfire Bolt. If you're in that situation, you would need to basically walk through your procs step by step. So the first one, you'd have to use this excess frost so that you would have the excess frost once you use your excess fire, since it gives you that, right? So you use up the excess frost. That gives you just 1 stack now of excess frost. And then you could use the excess fire, which would then bring you back to 2 stacks of excess frost. And then you could use the meteor. The meteor would give you excess fire back again, right? So that way you don't overcap. And then you could use another Fire Blast, and then you could use another Phoenix Flame, which would, you know, get rid of your 2nd stack of excess frost. And then at that point, you'd be able to use your empowered Frostfire Bolt. So you can kind of tell, like, you get kind of backed up, right? And empowered Frostfire Bolt does stack twice, so it's like not terrible if you already have one and you already see on one. But there is just like no way that you can play this properly without munching excess fire sometimes. It is just inevitable that you will munch because that's just, it doesn't stack to twice, right? So that's just going to be how it is. This is something that I really hope they address because it really feels bad to like have these procs overcapped and just be sitting on them and trying to get through your procs, but knowing that you can't without munching. I think all it takes is them to just increase the amount of stacks on excess fire to 2, and it will probably fix like 90% of the issue. I don't really understand why excess frost is allowed to stack to 2, but excess fire can only sit at 1, especially since we have meteors that randomly proc, right? We have those firefall meteors. Those are going to give us a stack of excess fire. Also, we're casting meteor a lot, so that's also going to give us a lot of excess fire. And then we also get a lot of empowered frostfire bolts, so that's also giving us more excess fire. So yeah, so many sources of the excess fire buff. It's hard to make sure that you make use of all of them without munching any procs when it comes to like the other ones, right? Like excess frost, empowered frostfire bolt. But like having to also manage excess fire on top of all this and not munch your SKBs and not munch your hot streaks, it makes for a really complicated gameplay loop. Rotationally, I think it's pretty fun. Like I myself enjoy this sort of complication in the spec. Like it gives it a nice level of depth, but there is such thing as too much, right? And I think they've maybe overcooked just a tad. You know, just making it so that excess fire stacks twice. I think that would really, really help. It would still be complicated. There would still be a lot to think about when it comes to your procs and what you're tracking as fire, but it wouldn't be as oppressive and it wouldn't be as frustrating because then you wouldn't be wasting as many procs. So that's my recommendation for Blizzard if you're watching this. Make excess fire stack twice. I think that pretty much solves it. Other than that, though, like the gameplay itself is really good. The only real other complaint I have is just, it's kind of the same issue as on live. It feels especially bad in Execute trying to maintain your improved Scorch stacks. That can just feel really annoying because, you know, you have so many procs that you're trying to get through, so many situations where you're trying not to overcap on things, and just having like one extra buff that you're trying to maintain, one extra debuff, while you're also not munching your excess fire, not munching your excess frost, not munching your frostfire empowerment, not munching your hot streaks, not munching your SKB, not munching your fire blast. I mean, there's just like so much going on already. Like we don't need this added you know, detriment to the rotation. So overall, whenever I played the Living Bomb variant, so there's like a different version, right, where you play Deep Impact. So you have like more Living Bombs, and then you go to Living Bomb talents instead of the Scorch talents. Going that route actually did feel pretty good because you didn't have to worry about Scorch so much. Scorch was just something that you did, and you didn't really have to worry about it too much. So yeah, that is preferable. And luckily in this raid, there is a lot of cleave. You can see it here. All these little ads, right? They actually take more damage whenever you roll the little Katamari Damacy ball over them. So yeah, really fun encounters, by the way. Just tangent. The raid encounters are super fun. Every boss was a banger, except for the second to last boss. That one is that one's a trip. You'll see it whenever we get there. But yeah, I think the cleave playstyle definitely fits fire well, and it feels good to be getting all this free ignite damage, all this living bomb damage out. It feels fun to not have to worry about Scorch as much. So yeah, that's the gameplay that I'm looking forward to. I guess I can stomach it in single target, having to use Scorch. Not a big deal if I have to do it. But yeah, overall, Frostfire, really, really fun. Sunfury is also fun, but I found that Sunfury is a bit behind damage-wise. I don't know if I'm just like not playing it right, or maybe everyone else is not playing it right, or maybe it's just the tuning or something else. Who knows, right? It could be the gearing too, the I'm level scaling. But what I've noticed is that Sunfury does not seem to really keep up with Frostfire. I think Frostfire is going to be the spec right now, unless they make some adjustments. So hopefully those changes come, because it would be nice to play Sunfury. Although I think Sunfury may actually have like better burst AoE, so it might be better in different ways, right? But it's also probably closer than live. Like on live, Sunfury is like really, really far behind. But because of the new tier bonus, we now actually have like some pretty decent damage gains for Sunfury. Oh, you're going to see here, I thought he was going for the bomb there. He called out that he was going for the bomb, and then I guess he like missed and took a wide turn, so we ended up wiping here. But yeah, anyways, Sunfury, super fun, just not quite there numbers-wise. I think it's going to take a little bit more cooking to get there. Hopefully they can adjust Sunfury. The tier bonus definitely gives it an advantage, though. Like, having this tier bonus is actually kind of insane. Like, the 15% bonus is pretty much up the entire time you're in combat. Like, basically, it's like 50 to 60% uptime. Feels really great, right? Like, you don't get it from your SKBs. You can definitely get more uptime if you go Unleash Inferno, and Unleash Inferno is actually a better option in some cases, I think, for Frostfire. Although overall, SKB definitely felt more solid. But yeah, I like that they're kind of adjusting things because of the tier bonus. I don't like that this is the tier bonus that's doing it. Like, that part isn't great, because it means if we lose the tier bonus, then that balance goes out the window. But it does feel kind of nice to like have more options. I guess we'll have to wait and see how Sims pan out later on. to see if that holds true in the end. But yeah, overall, like having played Fire, Frost, Arcane, every different hero talent configuration, I'm kind of leaning towards Fire, Frostfire Fire as my preferred spec to play on like any boss where I can play it. Cheat Death is just amazing. Having the execute, having the mobility, it just feels really good overall, and like especially for like fights where you're like unfamiliar, going into them blind, it definitely feels good to just be able to like lock in and play like a decent spec already. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm leaning. I think that there's definitely a possibility of Arcane Frost, you know, just being like better in the end. But yeah, right now I'm really hoping that they keep Fire super strong because it feels honestly really, really great to play in Raid. So anyways, we're going to jump forward a couple bosses here because I want to show you more content than just these first two bosses. Let's show more. Okay, so the next boss here. So this is a pure single target fight. This one's kind of interesting. So it's basically just like a crazy mechanics check. From what I understand on Mythic, they're actually going to do like the Silken Court thing on this where you have the groups with like different colors that you have to split up. But essentially the boss is very scripted. It just moves around the room and you have to stand in certain spots and then you have to dodge certain mechanics. And then the boss moves away and then you just follow it. And you probably will have to have like a soak rotation. You won't see the soaks here on normal. But on Heroic, there were like soaks that you had to soak on these conveyor belts, like little mines you had to pop. But yeah, just like a pretty straightforward single target fight. Just to kind of get an idea of where the single target for Fire is. Now, I am being ogged. Just keep that in mind, but no PI. But yeah, so we'll skip forward a little bit here. Yeah, so the boss pulls you away, and then you have to run to the boss. We just ended up using a Warlock Gateway for that. Pretty good. But yeah, Mage is obviously really strong in this fight. Like, you can just, like, blink, alter time, do all that stuff. There's lots of, like, really, really big damage that happens in this fight, but a lot of it can just be countered by just using your healer defensives properly. So yeah, not too much going on there. This is just unavoidable damage here while you dodge everything else. You can stand on the rim to be safe from all the ground mechanics and then get across once you're able. Also, if you fall in this hole, you get knocked up and you take damage, so make sure you use a health pot if that happens. But yeah, this fight, pretty fun for being like such a mechanics check. We actually have the boss bug out. If you see here, like the entire platform is just purple. That's not supposed to happen. It's PTR, guys. These things happen. It's all good. There was like one safe spot. Yeah, we pulled the boss again, and it didn't do that. So I'm assuming that was just a bug. We all reported it on the PTR, so hopefully that bug doesn't hit live. But yeah, fun bosses overall. Had a really, really good time in the raid. Fire was cooking on every boss. You can see it here on the meters. It was doing well. It didn't matter if it was single target. It didn't matter if it was cleave. It was just like always doing well. Part of that's because I had done the bosses before, and some of my guildies hadn't done the bosses. Part of it's because Fire is just easy to adapt in situations where you like don't really know what's going on. It's just kind of easy to play overall once you get the muscle memory down. So yeah, loving the bosses so far. Let's skip ahead here. We'll watch another one. So, okay, lots of trash in this instance. By the way, the trash is like super overtuned in here. The raid itself is gorgeous. I love the aesthetic of the raid, like the goblin, just over the top. Everything is golden. Casino layout. I don't think we've ever had like a raid in the casino, so it's kind of like a novel concept. We've had other places that are like high end, but yeah, it was pretty cool. And then next boss. So here we are on the one-armed bandit. So here are my talents for this boss. I went ahead and went into more living bomb talents. There is a lot of cleave in this fight. But yeah, essentially the gimmick with this boss is that he throws these giant coins at you. And if you get really close to the coin but don't get hit by it, you actually get a damage buff. And you can also pick up the coins and toss them at the boss to get another damage buff and give your allies damage buff as well. And I'm assuming that they're going to probably tune this one so that you have to get the damage buffs in order to pass the DPS check. But yeah, you also have like different mechanics. You can kind of like build your own boss mechanics essentially with these different coins. You put them in and then you get different outcomes based on that. But yeah, there's going to be like a lot of AoE that happens. You've got like these little bots that come out where you choose the coin. You've also got like explosions. These are the little coin bosses that you have. You basically... I'm just ignite cleaving, but you essentially choose to kill certain guys. You put the coins in the machine, and then that chooses a certain set of mechanics that happens, and you can only use each combination once. I want to go back here just to show this. So the boss does this other thing where this is like the funniest anti-melee mechanic. Basically, all these bots pop out, and if you touch them, it wipes the raid. So like everyone has to get out of melee so you don't blow up these bombs. And I, as Fire, I just start going ham on them. Just big AoE on them. Probably should have flame strike there. But yeah, just, you know, cleave a bunch of damage on the little gifts there, blow them all up, kill them before they reach their people that they're fixating. The melee has to avoid hitting them. And then at the end of the fight, the boss gets really mad and then rigs the game, and then essentially just chooses his own mechanics to use until you kill the boss. Different mechanics at the end. Nothing too crazy. There's like beams you have to deal with. You still have the coins coming out that you need to flip so that you don't get the damage buff. But yeah, overall, pretty easy boss on normal. All right, and then skipping ahead, this is the second to last boss. This one seemed kind of impossible with the current design of it. I'm not really sure what they're thinking with this boss. But essentially, you have like two sides of the room, and you have like these really nasty mechanics to deal with. Yeah, I think fire will actually fit really well with the way that these bosses are designed. They all have a certain component of cleave where it's really important to cleave certain adds. One thing that's really nice on this fight is it's not on this side of the room. You're going to see, by the way, like insane damage happening once these little bombs come out. These things do like way too much damage. But yeah, we're going to wipe here really quick. So on the other side of the room, you have these guys here. These guys, they are the goons. And you get locked into a circle. You can blink out of the circle, and you can actually cleave ignite off the boss onto the goons, even though they're line of sight. And then you can put your ignite on them. So as long as the boss is positioned like between the two goons, you can basically cleave both of them while you're outside. You can also see Devastation is able to mass disintegrate them too, which is kind of nice. Anything that like cleaves, even if it doesn't have like the line of sight mechanic working, because there is line of sight on these walls, you can still cleave onto the boss with it. So yeah. This one was just kind of a cluster. Anytime you had the goons or you had the little bots that come out that you have to explode, it just became a wipe really quickly. Everything was like way overtuned on this boss, so it was kind of hard to test, to be honest with you. Not really sure if anyone downed this one, even on normal. Just really, really hard with our current item level. So yeah, hopefully you can get a sense for how Mage plays and what it's going to be good at in this raid based on this footage here. Now, obviously, the damage numbers, the damage tuning on PTR is always subject to change, and the class design is also subject to change, so there's like a lot that could change. They could rebalance everything and make like Arcane by far the best or Frost by far the best, but really, in the end, it feels good to play Fire, and I think that's the most important thing to focus on in the PTR is like how well your spec plays and like if it's fun. And I think that Fire definitely has that down, so I'm hoping that this continues. I'm hoping that they add another stack to the excess Fire buff. And I'm hoping that they balance things just a little bit and make everything kind of like more in line, because it really seems like there's like certain outliers, especially Augmentation. Augmentation Evoker, I think it's really funny that everyone said it was dead whenever they came out with the notes about it not buffing tanks and healers, because it is so strong in raid now. Like you can't see it on the meters, but yeah, looking at like other people's logs, it looks like Augs are just topping like every boss, which is, it's funny that people are saying that Aug is dead. But anyways, that's a topic for another day. I hope you enjoyed the Mage content. I hope you're excited for Fire and 11.1. I know I am. I'm going to be making more content discussing how Fire works and making guides for Fire, Frost, Arcane, Devastation, all that good stuff. So let me know what you would like to see first. Which guide you'd like me to focus my time on before I start on anything else. I'll try to have the guide ready whenever the patch is actually coming live. So I probably won't complete it until PTR is over, because they're going to make some changes to stuff, I'm sure. But expect to see more commentary about stuff as well before we get to that point. So anyways, that's going to be it for today. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.